See, we should not misunderstand masculine with male and feminine with female. Female and male is a manifestation. Masculine and feminine are two fundamental qualities in nature, because physical nature in the universe happens between polarities. So one dimension of polarity is masculine and feminine. You may be a woman, but you may have more masculine in you than a man. You may be a man, you may have much more feminine in you than most women. So the question is not about being male or female. Being male or female is just a biological manifestation. Masculine and feminine is the basic polarities, which is the basis of physical creation here. So, if you want to be a complete human being, it is very important both masculine and feminine are there within you in equal proportion. Only then you are a full-fledged human being, otherwise you are a skewed human being. In this skew, you will misunderstand everything. In this skew, you will become a very limited possibility of life. If you might have seen these images probably because of the yoga studios and other things in California. You will see in India, Adiyogi, or he is known as Shiva, he is seen as the ultimate man. He is the ultimate man not because he is a super macho. He is ultimate man because one half of him is a woman. Have you seen these images? One half is a very athletic man, another half is a full-fledged woman. So his body itself is one half man and one half woman. In yoga, this is called as Pingala and Ida, two dimensions of your energy within you. Only when these two things are in balance, you have a proper perspective of life. Otherwise, you have become a very biological entity. Biology is a basis. Biology cannot be the peak of who we are.
So I do know that you have a quote that says that whether you're male or female, if you're not in touch with the feminine, you don't enjoy the finer things in life. So is the feminine principle things that are more receptive?
See, when we say masculine, there are two fundamental forces working within us all the time. One is our instinct of survival. We want to survive. We can take survival to different levels, but essentially the instinct of survival is this one wants to, this limited entity wants to survive and do well. This instinct is there in all of us, it's there in every creature in the world. Another dimension is, there is something within you which always wants to expand. When you are in a survival mode, you want to build walls around yourself. Boundaries are important. If you let your dog loose on the street, you will see he goes on peeing all over the place. Not because he has some urinary problem, I'm sorry, I'm not able to look at you. Not because he has some urinary problem, he is building his pee kingdom. He's setting his boundaries. It's a natural instinct. He is trying to set his own boundary all the time. This is survival instinct in all of us, that we want to build a wall, protection, self-preservation. But there's another dimension which wants to expand. If you don't empower that, if you just empower only your instinct of survival, then you will build a wall of self-preservation, and after some time you realize walls of self-preservation are also of self-imprisonment after some time. Yes? If you build a wall today you see an enemy outside and you build a wall. Tomorrow you are in your own prison. Somebody else put you into prison, that's bad. But you yourself put you into your prison, that's horror. Yes? So the instinct of self-preservation has to be consciously balanced, otherwise we'll end up building walls and walls. Oh, I'm in California.
This is so funny.
No, I was not making a political statement.
You just did.
So, inevitably, when we feel unsafe, we'll build a wall. So, the instinct of self-preservation cannot be ignored, it is there, obviously, isn't it? Obviously it is there in all of us. Walls are not always of brick and mortar, there are variety of walls we set up. But the longing to expand is also there. How much expansion do you want if you sincerely look at this? Today if you're here, you want to be little bigger, if you're there, you want to be little bigger. But suppose I make you the queen of this planet. Hello? Don't look at me hopefully, huh? Why will I commit such a blunder? Suppose I make you the queen of this planet, will you be fulfilled? No. You will look at the moon. Why not that? If I give you the moon, will you keep quiet? You will look at the next galaxy. If I give you one galaxy, will you keep quiet? You will look at the other galaxies. So there is something within you which wants to expand. How much expansion do you believe will settle you? If you really look at it, you want to expand boundlessly. There is something within you which does not like boundaries, please look at this. If I imprison you right now in a 5x5 cubicle, you will feel horrible. So tomorrow we'll announce your liberation and liberate you into your 10x10 cubicle. Now you will feel wonderful for a day. And then you will feel horrible in the 10x10 cubicle. We will liberate you into your 100x100 cubicle, you will feel really great for 3 days. Again you'll feel the same thing. It doesn't matter where I set the boundary. The moment you can feel the boundary, you want to break it, isn't it? So there is something within you which does not like boundaries. So if there is something within you which does not like boundaries, it simply means it is longing to become boundless. You cannot become boundless through physical means, isn't it? Physicality means, the fundamentals of physicality is a defined boundary. Without a defined boundary, there is no physical body. Suppose there were no boundaries to my body, where would I be, here or there or where? Only because has a boundary, it is here. Your body has a boundary, so it's there. But there is something within us which longs to be boundless. If we do not empower this, there will be no balance between masculine and feminine. That is why ultimate liberation, both for men and women, it's not… see, one cannot be liberated from the other. Both have to be liberated from what? From this bondage of being stuck in our own bodies and identified with little bodily changes that we have between us and go on endlessly about the same debate. No, unless we become free from the identification of our own physical form, there is really no freedom. This is what consciousness means, an intelligence which creates this body. Today there's a whole lot of interest in the Western world about the brain. In the yogic sciences, we do not attach much significance to the brain because we think through the entire body. This is the way of women for a long time. They thought with their body. They did not have all those complicated thoughts that men were struggling with, but they simply knew what to do, what not to do, because they thought with their entire body, because their body was doing things which no brain can do. Even now, if I ask you, what you call as intelligence in modern terms, in today's educated world, what people think is mind is a combination of memory and intelligence, isn't it so? Memory and your ability to concoct something out of what you remember, the data that you have and what you make out of it and use it, now you're considered smart, isn't it? Let's start with memory. See, if I ask you 10 generations ago how your grandmothers looked like, do you remember? No. Do you remember? No. But your great-great-great-grandmother's nose is sitting on your face right now. Your body remembers or no? Your body remembers or no? How your skin tone was 1,000,000 years ago for your forefathers, your body still remembers, yes or no? So in terms of memory, what your body carries is trillions of times more than what your brain can ever carry, yes or no? The complexity of activity, that are happening in a single molecule of DNA. With all your brains, you can't figure it. Yes or no? More complicated activities happening here than here. Yes? So, this is a body of intelligence. The question is, can you employ it or do you just run on one thing? In the yogic sciences, we look at human intelligence as 16 parts. So this is like a 16-wheeled truck, but you choose to drive it on one wheel. Very strenuous. So you will see educated people are the most stressful people on the planet because they are driving a 16-wheel truck on one wheel, very difficult. Their intellect, their thought is the only damn thing they're trying to use and it's very difficult. You don't have to think through everything. You know, can I just tell a small story?
Yes, please.
My great-grandmother lived to be 113.
Wow.
Okay that's not the only achievement she had. She got married when she was 14. And those days in India, an unmarried girl cannot use tobacco. But once she is married, she is free to use tobacco. So on the first day, she exercised her right to use tobacco. And she lived in a certain way. People started saying, she's a devil of a woman. Not because she did any harm to anybody, simply because if she laughed, the whole street shook. Like that she laughed. Those days, in those societies, women were not supposed to laugh loudly. They're supposed to laugh in a controlled way. Only street women laughed loudly, family women laughed very… At least when men were there, they did not laugh, because there was nothing to laugh about. But she laughed in such a way that the whole street would shake if she laughed. So people said she laughs like a devil. Always, unfortunately, this is the whole thing. The devil is a laughing one. God is a dead serious one. It's your choice. So, she lived wild. Wild means, at the age of 67 or 68, she lost her husband. And then she decided, this is a very large land-owning family. So she moved out from the family and built a small temple with her own hands in somebody else's land. Somebody else means another family's land, not without permission, with their permission, but she was family's disgrace because this family owns hundreds and hundreds of acres of land and she sets up her stupid temple in somebody else's land, the whole family, oh my God, she's ashamed. And she built a temple, not for any god, she sat there. She is the main piece. No god, she just sat there and people started visiting her. And slowly, this following grew for her and she'll just live there. When we went there for vacation, she would come to see us. She was an incredible woman, she just captured me in a certain way simply because one thing, she laughed. Another thing, when I met her, she was over 100 years of age and her hair, full hair below her knees. She would leave her hair loose and dance like that. So I just liked… she was freaky. With her you could do anything, nothing was wrong. With everybody else is constantly trying to tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's right, what's wrong. With this one woman you could do what you want and she was fine. And sometimes, she would be crying and laughing at the same time. And I asked, what's happening with you? Are you crazy? Everybody says you're crazy. Why are you crying and laughing at the same time? She would just burst into a hoot of laughter and say, someday you will know. And she would laugh. And I would see her like this. If they give her breakfast, she first goes and feeds the ants, then the sparrows, then the squirrels. Most of her breakfast is over in this. And people, self-appointed advisors, They come and say, you old woman, you just don't eat anything, you will die like this. All these advisors died, but she lived and lived. She buried her husband, her children, her grandchildren, some of her great-grandchildren, but she lived on. And many times I've seen her, after having fed the ants and everything, she would simply sit there, not even eating this little breakfast she has, tears flowing down her cheeks. And I would ask her, what's wrong with you? Because I thought she's very emotional about the ants because I was 5, 6 years of age, I was going stamping the ants and she was so emotional, she never stopped me from even killing the ants, though she was feeding them. And then I asked, what's wrong with you, why? She would say, I'm full. I don't know what the hell she was talking. It took me another 20 years to realize what she was talking about. So for me, she became the symbol of feminism for me. She was the ultimate woman because she fulfilled everything that she is expected to fulfill, but she was never a part of that nonsense. She was always beyond that. And this is because not you have great thoughts. Thoughts are very rudimentary stuff in human life. This must be understood, I'm sorry. Because I'm being introduced as a thought leader, I'm getting scared of that. See, thought is happening only from the limited data that you have gathered in your head, isn't it so? But there is something more phenomenal happening all across, isn't it? Hello? The intelligence of the creation is functioning right now here, is it or not?
Yes.
If you can transform a piece of bread into a human being, that means the very intelligence of the source of creation is throbbing within you right now. Instead of identifying with that, we are unfortunately getting identified with what we accumulate, with the car we have, with the house we have, with the relationships we have, with the body we have, with the accumulated knowledge that we have. We have gotten identified with things that we have acquired rather than being identified with the source of who we are. So this is what consciousness means, but this will not come by thinking differently. You must touch that dimension beyond physiological and psychological process. This is something that must happen. When that happens, there will be no problem about who is a man, who is a woman.
Could you please tell us how we can touch that dimension?
We can start with a very simple process, which today tens of millions of people are practicing across the world. I brought this out because, when I was just about maybe 2.5 or around 2.5 years of age, my mother, her health was not good. So they sent me to my aunt's place who lived in my grandfather's house. My aunt was just married and she was only 18 years of age. She was that bubbly, joyful, loving human being that you can't stop her for a moment. And she took me in as her own and we became great friends. I was there for nearly 2 years maybe, but after that I came back to my parents, but I always developed that close relationship with her, not of an aunt, but we became buddies right through our life. Then a time came and her life went on like normal, marriage good, children cute, and the boy got educated and went somewhere and the girl got married as she wished and grandchildren came, everything wonderful. Then she got some ailment. Then she knew in the next 2 years she's gonna die, max 2 years. Then I saw this wonderful human being deteriorating into nothing. Total mess she became. This such a loving, joyful, exuberant human being that nobody could stop suddenly became a wreck. I just looked at her. I was into too much travels here and there, I tried to catch up with her, but nothing much could be done with her because she just shattered. I just looked at her and saw the only problem with her is She knew two things, her physiological structure and her psychological structure. She managed it well and kept herself loving, joyful, wonderful, everything. The moment she realized these two things are going to end, she's finished. She's just finished. You can't believe such a wonderful human being became so nasty and miserable and broken. At that time I thought, this is something that needs to happen. So we started what is called as, in Tamil Nadu, we started this Urusuttu Anmikam. This means one drop spirituality. Everybody must have at least a drop of something which is beyond your body, which is beyond your mind, something within you which is not a concoction of your mind. A place to stand beyond physiological and psychological process must be there in every life. As a part of this, we launched what is called today being practiced by many people. Is anybody practicing Isha Kriya here? Yeah. This is a simple process. Initially, it looks like a psychological process because people can't keep their mind aside, they have to use it in some way. So we are going through the psychological process, but if you go deep enough into it, if you sit here, your body will be here, your mind will be there, what is you is little away from that. Once there is a little distance between you and your body, between you and your mind, this is the end of suffering. Because human suffering happens only on two different levels, physiological suffering, psychological suffering. Do you know any other kind of suffering? Hello?
No.
Physical suffering, mental suffering, this is all. Once there is a distance between you and your body, between you and your mind, this is the end of suffering. This must happen to you not at the end of your life, at the very beginning of your life, because the fear of suffering is what has crippled humanity. A human being has not explored the full depth and dimension of who they are simply because of the fear of suffering. What will happen to me? What will happen to me? Is always the concern, isn't it? Suppose you came to this kind of ease, that if you sit here, whatever the hell happens to me, this is how I will be. If this assurance and ease came into your life, then you would explore life in many more ways than you're doing it right now, isn't it so? This needs to happen. If we want to unleash human genius on this planet, the fear of suffering has to go. For that to go, you must know something beyond your physiological and psychological structures.
Absolutely.